today's world of high-speed connection, text messaging, and social networking, we often find ourselves searching for information. There are millions of blogs on the internet. News, sports, politics, and tech. But I bring it all together for you and present it in a relentlessly unconventional fashion. My name is Zennie Abraham, and this is the Blog Report. It's time now for news.
Hey everybody, as I talk to you, let me straighten this up a little bit more, there we go. It's August 4th, and I'm 50 years old. Zennie62 has been on Earth for a half century. I was born August 4th, 1962, hence Zennie62. Now, I share a birthday with our president, Barack Obama, who is 61 in birth, August 4th, 1961, which places him at 51. So, that means I'm 1 year behind greatness permanently. There's nothing I can do about it. Why? Okay, so let's get some things out of the way. First of all, you're 50. How come you're not married? I'm a late bloomer. And it's not for not trying. I just... Sometimes you get... Well, first of all, generally, as I've come up, when you got married, you married someone who looked like you in terms of skin color, right? When I was coming up, black girls didn't want to have anything to do with me in Chicago because they said I was proper. I talked proper, or I talked white. When we came out to California on April 8th of 74, I met Bill Boyd and Lars Frick, and we started the Star Trek Club. I was a Trekker. And so when you have friends who are white male like that, you gain white female friends who are also nerdish, and so guess who you get along with better? There you go. Those are my formative years. So it wasn't until later in life now, you see now, no one puts a color label on being what we now call a nerd. We called it a Poindexter then within the black community, right? That's not the case. And so between now and back then, in that gap, most of my male friends were white, some frat boy types and everything, and so that's the world that I knew. And no, to a large extent, that's what I'm used to. And you pick accordingly within that. But there was something within me such that between 1988, when I was in the working world and trying to make it happen, and 2003, still were in the working world trying to make it happen, I had a knack for meeting women who either were lesbian or bi. I remember in 88 I met this girl, actually struck up a conversation with her at the city center when I was working for the city of Oakland, and we had this great, what turned out to be a one-night stand, and then she said that was the first time in 2 years she'd been with a woman, and I didn't, because I wasn't familiar with the idea of the concept idea of being lesbian or whatever. And I said, "Who have you been with?" She said, "Women." I thought, wow. And so that led to some huge neurotic issues she had going on, and she didn't like something that I said in bed while she was on top of me, basically ramming the crap out of me, and I made a comment, and she was like, the comment wasn't, it was like, blank me into the ground, okay? That's what I said. She goes, "What?" I mean, seriously. So I said, "Fuck me to the ground." That's what she was doing, okay? So it was, and she got mad that I said that. So at any rate, yeah. And then, so I had this weird track record. It wasn't until after 2003 that I started getting out of that track record because something in me, I guess I grew up and I became aware of whatever vibe I was putting out. The bottom line, though, is the positive aspect of that is I've always been attracted to athletic, intelligent women. And again, when I was in school in Chicago, black girls were not attracted to a guy like me because they thought I talked white. So I was sort of pushed in a direction of white, if you will. There you go. So, and then on top of that, I'm a late bloomer. Hey, I didn't learn to ride a bike. I didn't get off my training wheels until I was 7 years old. Think about that. So in a lot of ways, I've been a late bloomer. And then I was focused on career. I wasn't like, and then on top of that, I had a tendency, if something went wrong in a relationship, and I think this goes back to when I was dating Lauren Seaton at Cal, and she was with another guy, and I didn't realize it, and I didn't find out until she had sort of tricked me into picking her up at the airport after she went to see this other guy and didn't tell me. That really devastated me, and I was 24, and she was on the crew team and all that. But anyway, the bottom line is that made it hard for me to trust, and it's put something in me where I jumped out of situations very quickly rather than try to work on them, because you don't want some dysfunctional relationship that takes you off your game of trying to make a successful career out of your work life. That's a big thing with me. So, those are the reasons. And then on top of all that, in terms of the way that I look, I look this way because, not with any desire to look young, whatever that means. I simply, when I stopped working for Jerry Brown, when he fired me, and I said, you can't fire me, I quit. I said this actually to Robert Bob, who was city manager of Oakland, after I had tried to bring the Super Bowl that was in Jacksonville in 2005 to Oakland. We were competing against them. At any rate, I accused Jerry of being racist. I said that Jerry was afraid to deal with a person like me who was black and intellectually aggressive. That is, someone who was not afraid to say, in a room full of people, regardless of what color they were, all white, didn't matter, I know the answer better than you do. He was afraid to deal with that kind of black guy, because he didn't have anybody on his staff that was like that, like me. Whereas Elihu Harris had me. I was his economic advisor. And Elihu was black, Oakland mayor. So, Jerry came before Jerry. So, Jerry had gotten a hold of the email, didn't like that. And I quit. I put out a press release, basically, as one friend of mine said, you put out a press release to 3 of the major newspapers of the Bay Area and told the city of Oakland to fuck off. And that's basically what I did. I'm very proud of that. Of course, I stared in the mirror and I thought, what did I just do? I ripped a 7-year umbilical cord out of my system, 7-year-old umbilical cord of public service. And I immediately looked and I said, what do I not like about myself? And I didn't like the fact that I had a mustache and I had this hair. And so I shaved off the mustache, I worked to get contact lenses, and I started shaving my hair close. And a woman at Bank of America who was taking my picture for my card said, wow, what a gorgeous picture. And I never had a woman say that about a photograph of me before me, and it was in my presence. So the look stayed. My mom didn't like it because she thought that a mustache represented virility, Clark Gable and Billy D. Williams. But, the one thing I've learned in this life, you have to carve your own path, in all ways. And I'm not blaming anybody for it, but I didn't grow up with my father as a present figure in the home. So you grow up a different way because of that. And that's a whole nother video. But the bottom line is, I love my father, rest in peace, but he wasn't there for me like he should have been. And I'm the only child. So fortunately, my mother had other positive male figures around me, guys that she was dating, and she was very careful not to date someone who was disrespectful of me. So as a result, I had a wonderful childhood coming up, and because she worked for United Airlines, I was able to go places that, under normal circumstances, I would have only thought of as a concept, like going to Hawaii 10 times in a row, or going to Paris or Rome, or being able to go to Japan, doing grad school and go to the Ministry of International Trade and Industry as I did. None of that would have been a part of my life had Mom not worked for United Airlines and focused on allowing me to be able to see as much of the world as I could see. And there's still a lot of parts I haven't seen. Like, I want to go to London. I'd love to be in London for the Olympics and, everything else. But, say Chase Hope solo. But the whole point is I, the bottom line is that I came up in a way such that I was forced to carve my own path. And that's my advice to anybody watching this who would say, what have you learned over this past half century? Okay, here's what I learned. First of all, Don't let the insecurities of others direct who you are. Don't. If this is particularly important advice for women, because women are known to do this. If you're dating somebody of a different color or whatever, don't be out with that person looking around and whether or not other people are looking at you. That's disrespectful to the person that you're with. I don't care what color you are. I don't care if you're, white woman with a black guy or whatever, or a black woman with a white guy. Don't do that. Have enough strength to carry yourself forward, because it's very insulting. I've been through that. And I immediately dropped anyone I was dating who did that. That's ridiculous. You don't want to put up with that. Additionally, the other thing that I've learned is the big thing, is that a lot of our world around us is based on a lot of bullshit. What I mean by that is we conduct ourselves with these beliefs. For example, it used to be, when I was coming up, for example, there was the color line. When I was born in 1962, there was segregation in some parts of the United States. Blacks went here, whites went there. I was too young to know what this was, but that's what happened at the time. Or William Shockley, who was this late asshole guy who thought he was smarter than anybody else, who came up with this idea that, whites were generically superior to other people. No, it's not. That's not the case at all. The idea is that somebody had it in their head they were going to put themselves out that way and impose on you. Okay? That's the thing. Impose on you and say, I'm going to tell you that I am better than you. It doesn't mean that they are. But that's the bullshit factor. What's happened now is we've come up with generational turnover. Is you have a set of African Americans that don't believe that, but I didn't believe that for all the way back when, I'll go back to when I was 6 years old, and my grandfather said, oh, you should play football. And I said, I'm not going to do that because there's too many blacks playing. I was 6. What I meant by that is we were playing, and I said, I want to coach. I want to lead. Okay? And I remember in 1972, my mom was asked by United to try out to be a regional sales representative for United, but she didn't think that they were going to pick her because she was black. And I told her, and I was 10, don't worry about that. Go on your own path. This is an idea that has been within me since I was little. Why? I don't know. Because I don't accept that I didn't get the signal in there that, hey, we're supposed to be thought of as inferior, that there were black rules, there are different rules for us black folk. No, not at all. And I always believed, and I learned this, that it's your delivery that matters. And then you can't be afraid. This is my other lesson. Don't be afraid to state your ideas. I remember Ezra Rapport used to play this trick on me in the city of Oakland when I was an intern, and I was talking a lot because I came out of Cal and thought I knew and things, and I think Jeff Chu said I was a pedant. Jeff Chu was my boss there, the Office of Economic Development. Pedantry is your skill. But at any rate, Ezra would always trip me up by saying, why does that matter? And have to go on this big explanation. It would all fall apart in a meeting. So October 10th of 1987, I turned the tables on Ezra at a meeting and did that to him, and he was floored. He was tripped up. And that's when I realized, all this is image and bullshit. No wonder all these Ponzi schemes going on. You have to be confident in yourself to cut through that, but also confident to state your ideas and hold to your convictions regardless of who's around you, in what setting. It doesn't matter. That's what I've learned. That's what I learned. And to those of you who are young and black who do think this way, because fortunately there are more of you who don't every year, thankfully, don't look for ways to define who you are as a black person. This is what blacks do. That is a sure loser. You will never succeed with that. You just won't. You'll become you're boxing yourself. Just as someone boxes themselves by saying, okay, I was a friend of mine said to me, oh, well, black women get upset when she dates a black guy. Who cares? It's insulting to the guy. Just go and date the guy. I remember thinking that when she said that. Also, don't avoid people who are your friends because maybe they're not the right age or the right color. they treat you right, treat them right. Also, if you call people out who you feel are using you. If you do a lot for people, as I've done a lot for a lot of people, but lately this has been an issue with me. I say, hey, you know what? You were supposed to do this and you didn't, and I'm calling you out on it. And if a friend is a friend, they'll talk with you and they'll apologize. You have a discussion. You know where they're coming from. But if they don't talk with you, then they were never a friend to begin with, and you were right. But you have to take the risk of losing that friendship that you really never had by saying, hey, look, there's a problem, to find out exactly where you are with that person. You will find better people, I guarantee you. Love your mother and your parents, and don't be afraid to call your mother and your father every day, because you don't know how long you've had with them. You don't know how long they're going to be on this earth. I'm an only child. The relationship I have with my mother is vitally important to me. I am sorry that I haven't given her the gift of a grandchild or wife, but I believe that's going to happen at some point before I leave this earth, as opposed to after. But that's having a great relationship with your parents says a lot about who you are as a person. It really, really does. Also, don't be politically aware and politically active at all times. And also, don't be afraid to talk to people in public. I see a lot of people walking around, their heads down. They're afraid to communicate. Hold your head up. This is particularly true in the Bay Area. Hold your head up and talk, because you learn who people are. And not only that, if you get to know people, you get to know your neighborhood, you know the tapestry. It's that safety device is built in, and you know who to go to can help you. And you won't make the mistake of thinking that person X isn't part of your neighborhood because maybe they look a certain way. It's just that you didn't get to know them. You passed by them all day, or maybe they were invisible to you. That's wrong. Get off your smartphone and stop texting and start talking. I don't care if it's on the train. I don't care if it's at the bus platform. I don't care if it's walking down the street. I don't care if it's at the gym. You talk to people. Don't be socially inept. We have way too many socially inept people, especially in the Bay Area, and we need to wage war against that behavior. It is the kind of behavior that divides and tears apart our society. We don't need that. We've got to combat it. Bad thing. I'm happy to say that this generation coming up, I think, is starting to get less out of being on their phones too much. They've got it in the right balance, and things are changing. That's a great thing. And finally, I could say a lot more, but I want to start wrapping this up because this is like 17 minutes and going on. Love yourself. Because if you don't like who you are, nobody else will. And listen to what comes out of your mouth. Again, I say this particularly with women that I know, who always talk about what they can't do or how they aren't this or how they don't look good. Stop yourself. I've met some women in the first 5 minutes, I can tell how they feel about themselves. And if about 50% of what you say about yourself in the first 5 minutes of meeting someone, particularly a guy, is you're not pretty enough or it's hard being a woman, you know what? That sets the tone for your relationship with that guy or with most people. But it tells the world that you're not happy with who you are. And you just said that automatically without really saying it. Check yourself before you wreck yourself there. Anyway, I could say more, but that's it. I'm 50. Wow. Unbelievable.